It's Wednesday, July 30th. Welcome to Citizen McCain. We're getting into the dog days of the not end of summer, but like pushing towards the end of summer. It is hotter than anything here in DC. I hate the humidity. It's awful. I'm over it, not to like bitch and complain. We're very happy that Miranda was not blown away in a tsunami last night.
I
I
shouldn't
literally was
laugh because it's
in my
horrible.
bed texting our show chain, and you got an alert that California had a tsunami alert. And I was like, well, I hope you don't wash away and drown like by tomorrow morning. Glad everything's
It's
fine,
like
everybody.
fires, earthquakes, tsunamis. We got a little bit of everything this year. So,
Yeah.
whatever. It's
Yeah.
very exciting.
Yes. So before we get into anything, we have Nikki Schwab on today, who's one of our favorite journalists. But before we get into anything, we have to talk about this Sydney Sweeney
Oh my
good
God.
genes controversy. So for anybody who hasn't seen, let's play the clip really quick. Number one. So Sydney Sweeney was in a American Eagle jeans commercial that's creating a lot of attention online.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
Okay, so people are really freaking out online because they're saying this is like Nazi propaganda, talking about genetics, talking about your genes. Like it's obviously a double entendre on the denim jeans and then genetic genes. It reminded me of the Brooke Shields ad when
Yeah, it's
she
it's
had the like,
clearly an homage to that. Yeah.
yeah, which was also incredibly controversial when she was younger. And she did it when she was like 16. And in it, she said, nothing gets between me and my Calvins, nothing, implying that she didn't have underwear on, which was controversial because she was like underage at the time. And, the 80s were a totally different time. Just a reminder, Sydney Sweeney has a lot of brand deals other than American Eagle, excuse me. She has Dr. Squatch, Armani Beauty, Laneige. Hope I'm saying that. Laneige, sorry.
Laneige. It's like lip
So sorry.
masks. I use their products. I love
Age,
them.
Ashley's correcting.
Yeah.
Carastace, sorry. Hey Dude, Buy Beverages, Guess Jeans, Baskin Robbins, Samsung phones, Miu Miu, Ford, and there's a rumored lingerie deal with Jeff Bezos and Amazon. So I want to get your take, Miranda, and then I'll tell you my reaction to this.
Okay, so first of all, I did not. Okay, maybe I'm naive and stupid because the best pair of jeans that I have ever owned in my entire life was when I was like 19 and were from American Eagle. So I'm
Right.
like, I kind of ride for American Eagle, and I didn't even know they were still in business. So for this, I was like, oh damn, should I go try them out again? I did not pick up on the subtext because I take things for face value sometimes, and I just was like, I like Sydney Sweeney. So everyone feel free to just come at me and call me an enabler. But when I first watched the video, I was laughing because she reminded me of that interview from a few years ago with Julia Fox when she was like uncut gems. And it's like
Yes.
the way she's talking, just like her diction is so funny that it's like John's are passed down from parents to offspring.
I know.
And it's just like it's like, okay, like everyone needs to calm down. Sydney Sweeney
Well,
is an
that was
actress. Like,
my first reaction with the voice thing. That was my first reaction too, as someone who has been to extensive
mhm.
voice training
Oh, I
myself, as
remember.
you well remember. Every job that I had until I was about 30, I got sent to voice training because I am from Phoenix, and Phoenix is very close to California. And I used to have a vocal fry that has literally been beaten out of me. It does not exist anymore. Now I sound very erudite, like I'm from the East Coast when I speak
Do
now.
you?
But I literally, when I hear old interviews of myself from much earlier on in my career when I'm in my 20s, I sound much more like I'm from, I was hanging out the Scottsdale Mall, and now I think I sound the way
Okay.
everyone designed me to sound. But I don't have a problem with either. I think it's fine for you to have vocal fry. That's how
I'm a
some women and
literal
people
valley
sound.
girl. I'm from the San Fernando
You don't have a
Valley.
vocal fry though.
No, because I work very hard to not have one. But it's like
Brandon, I
if
know you.
anyone's allowed to have one, it's me because it's I was born with it. I'm the one who's allowed to have it. But yeah, it's
And for
the
people
Sydney
that don't know what
Sweeney.
a vocal fry is, it's that the Sydney Sweeney is doing it here. It's like it's like when you do this like thing with your throat. Yeah.
If you really want me to get into it, I can actually like totally get into it because it's my natural state of speaking. But I don't talk like this
It's
because
that.
it's super annoying.
It's that. Yes.
There it is.
So
Yeah.
I agree with you that my first reaction was the voice, that it's just like, for me, again, because I literally think it's probably like hundreds of hours of voice
Oh, yeah.
training.
I remember the voice lesson days. Those
Oh
were
God,
the
I used to have to do it like 3 times. This is back when I
and the
first started
singing,
radio.
the singing part of it.
Yes. Yes, it was horrible. I will say though, my vocal coach, I really admire and am grateful to him, because legitimately it did help my career to sound more like, when you're talking about things like war and famine, like it's better to sound the way I sound right now than the way I used to sound. So I'm actually very grateful. But I agree with you that it was the voice that caught me at first. So what do you make of people saying that, this is Nazi propaganda? Because she's talking about her genetics with her hair, and she is blonde, blue-eyed, like, the Western Aryan ideal of beauty. When I first heard it, this may surprise you, I actually didn't like the language of the ad. I thought that if I were in charge of making this ad, I would have worded it differently. And I also maybe would have chosen some other beautiful women that are not blonde and blue-eyed to be in the ad with him. And for the
Sure.
record, like, I'm an anti-woke activist. Like, I'm like the least woke person on the planet, but I think people are making a mountain out of a molehill, and I think this is, at the end of the day, just a jeans ad, but I don't love the wording of it. I actually don't. I think anytime you're talking about genetics, you're entering into in this context, you're entering into a little bit of a weird zone.
I totally hear what you're saying, and I don't think that any of this was a accidental misstep by American Eagle. I think that this is
Yes.
all incredibly calculated. I think that they knew exactly what they were going to do, or what kind of reaction that this was going to cause. Sydney Sweeney is the it girl. Okay, so
Mhm.
it's like, she's the girl of the year, whatever you want to call her. She's the one. So by casting her and having her say these things, I think they knew she was going to cause a stir. There's even a separate ad where it's like spray painted and it says Sydney Sweeney has good genes, the GENES with the genes, genetic
Mhm.
genes, and she spray paints it out, crosses it out, and writes genes J with the J. So they knew this was all very intentional. Anytime anybody wants to count her out as stupid, she kind of undercuts it and says, "No, I know exactly what I'm doing here." And American Eagle sales are up. They're not
Mhm.
going down.
Well,
People
controversy sells, yeah.
exactly, and sex sells, and this was a very sexy ad. So uh, I don't love the language, but at the same time, I think that they were very. I don't want to say that they were smart, because I think that they're too smart to play stupid. You can't play both, and so I think that it worked, and everyone's talking about it, and everyone's curious about it. People are nonstop Googling these ads, trying to find them online. I had a hard time finding a clean cut of it because they removed it. So I think ultimately the controversy worked, and a bunch of the other ads are still up featuring Sydney. So I don't think that this is going to go anywhere, or going to go away, at least.
My last comment on this before we have a first time hand up question asker. I was going to say
Oh.
caller, but that we're not a Zoomer.
Yeah.
The last thing I will say on this is that I also find it incendiary that so many people are throwing around the term Nazi and Nazism.
Yes.
And we're not throwing it around in the context of people targeting Jewish people and the violence, the huge rise of violence against Jewish people. And Ben, my husband, tweeted yesterday, whenever anyone throws around the word Nazi, I think of this. And it was a screenshot from Family Guy, where Stewie is in a Nazi uniform and he's wearing a McCain Palin sticker, like a thing. And I remember that episode happening and how hurtful and insane it was. But there was a period of time when my dad was the Nazi, the Nazi of the planet, like that he wasn't. By the way, like there's lots of things that can go back. There was Congressman Lewis, who is an icon in and of himself, and I'm not desecrating him, but he said that my dad was no different than the head of the Ku Klux Klan. So like, this is why this language, we shouldn't throw it around the way we do with like jeans ads and presidential candidates that are now beloved on both sides, because we should use it when it's worth using, when it's actually a real thing to invoke Nazis and Nazi Germany. So that's my last thing. And also, Sydney Sweeney, we maybe could take a little bit of a pause on the endorsement deals. You got a lot of. I saw her Baskin Robbins one. I was like, what is happening? Anyway, Will, who was asking our first question. Will, thank you so much for calling in. Do you have some hot commentary on Sydney Sweeney?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
well,
great.
Cool.
Where are you
Awesome.
from?
I'm calling in from Pennsylvania.
And you have
Kind
great
of,
eyebrows, by the way.
that
Irrelevant,
is the
but great
first time
eyebrows.
someone has ever told me that. Usually it's like, oh, nice caterpillars.
Oh,
But funny enough, I did have kind of a comparison between Sydney Sweeney and Pedro Pascal, because I
Mhm.
oh,
think it's an interesting conflict. Because like Pedro Pascal, like I don't know if you guys have heard this take or not, but I think he's gonna get Me Too'd eventually.
I've been
I
seeing a
Really?
lot
think
of this like
I think
touchy
he's a huge
anxiety
creep. Yeah.
discourse. Yes.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Why?
Yeah,
I don't know anything
because
about this. Tell me why.
so if you look like anytime he's at like a Comic-Con or a red carpet event, he gets really touchy with his female co-stars in like really awkward way. And he'll like go up to them and be like, "Oh, hello, how you doing?" And it's like people have asked him, they're like, "Why are you doing that?" He's like, "Oh, well, I have anxiety and that helps me." And I'm like, "So do I. I keep my hands to myself." But and it's in the weird like push for him to be like, "Oh, this is what real masculinity looks like." And it's like and I've heard people say too, like, oh, maybe he's gay. And it's like, well, that's almost worse because it's like, I'm gay and I don't touch women like that. And it's like almost leans into a bad stereotype where it's like,
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of gay guys are like, oh, I can just do whatever. I'm gay. I'm fine. I can like disrespect boundaries. But like Sydney Sweeney is like, like you guys are saying, like she's like the it girl now, and she's not ashamed to be hot. Like when she was on
Yeah.
SNL, the Hooters sketch was her idea.
Hmm.
And
Uh-huh.
she's like, yeah, like I'm a hot blonde and people like hot blondes, deal with it. And like as opposed to Pedro Pascal, who's like, oh, we're gonna reinvent what masculinity means. And it's like looking back, like old Hollywood, even someone like Jimmy Stewart, like who was kind of like regular looking, people were still like, oh, I would sleep with Jimmy Stewart. He's really hot. And it's like he's just kind of a normal dude. But like Pedro is like weird. I don't know.
Well, I think it's a good point that you're making about Sydney Sweeney sort of being like a throwback to like a Pamela Anderson era, just like a
Hmm.
classic blonde bombshell, a woman who owns her sexuality and is clearly using it to make money, which is, the oldest game in the book.
Yeah.
I think it's also interesting at the same time when there was this big moment of like embrace body positivity, like the Dove ads and everything that had women of like much different sizes and whatever in their ads. And now in the era of Ozempic and Manjaro, whatever it's called,
Yeah.
um, you know, being very thin is much more in now. So I
Hmm.
think it's really interesting that like I think there's a lot of pushback to this too because I think the fallacy of like even Lizzo has lost like a ton of weight and is
Hmm.
talking about how much better she looks and feels, and she's like I think one of her lines was like, I'm a thick bitch, I like tempo. And it's like, it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like it's celebrated in the same way. And I think there's a backlash towards Sydney Sweeney that's unfair. But people are also saying that she's like MAGA. And as someone who's like very
Yeah.
connected in these circles, I've never heard that. And trust me, Scott Baio is considered a big celebrity in MAGA land. So like, I would have heard about it if Sydney Sweeney was like a
Well,
Republican. So yeah, go ahead.
because I remember like her mom had like some birthday party and they made like parody hats that were red and they said like make 60 great again. And so everyone was like, "Oh, your family that's all from Idaho, like they're all MAGA, so you're MAGA." And it's like I'm sure she's not. Like I'm sure she's probably like a really big lefty, but she actually came out and like defended her family
Yeah,
when that
she's
happened.
actually
Good.
been very like not vocal about what her politics are. And
Hmm.
yeah, her family's from Spokane, Washington. So it could
Oh,
go
right,
either
yeah.
way. But yeah, she did throw that like people are calling it a MAGA themed birthday party for her mom. I wore a hat for the 4th of July that said Make America Lit Again. I'm not MAGA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, let's get so real. I mean, it calling someone and who cares if she's MAGA? Quite
Yeah.
frankly, it's irrelevant. She's an actress and people like her work. She can be whatever she wants to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and I think your point, Will, that like it's an embrace of a throwback of just a glorified sex symbol, and people for whatever reason are melting down. And again, it's like it's always going to exist. Farrah Fawcett, like there's always going to be a sexy woman that
mhm.
guys across the country are going to love and think is hot, and that's totally fine. And she is smart not to get political because she wants us to buy her Baskin Robbins and her jeans, and that's again
Yeah.
totally fine. Will, our guest is here. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I'm very grateful that you called in, and very grateful that you watch the show. And if anything happens with Pedro Pascal, please come back on because
Oh, for sure.
I'm going to follow this because I have not
Yeah,
been following.
it's been developing over the last few days, so it's interesting that
Mhm.
you brought that up in comparison to this because yeah, I've been keeping an eye on that too.
Yeah. Just quick shout out. My friend actually works with Nikki at the Daily Mail.
Ah,
Oh,
So shout out to my girl Caitlin. She was my opinions editor at my old college paper. So
that's awesome.
yeah,
Well, hello. Well,
yay.
come back anytime, Will. And just a
definitely.
reminder, if you guys want to also ask me, Nikki, or Miranda a question, just to raise your digital hand. And if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, what are you waiting for? YouTube.com/@CitizenMcCain YouTube. We would really love to get to 20,000 YouTube subscribers by September. That's our goal. So, and we're at like 18 point something.
You're
So
close. Mhm.
help these bitches out. Help us
Yes.
stay on YouTube. Nikki, first of
Hi,
all, you
ladies.
look tan, lovely. Really quick, I have to say your bio. Nikki covers the White House and political campaigns for the Daily Mail with 17 years of political reporting. She also writes DC gossip columns for the Washington Examiner and U.S. News. You can find her on X at Nikki Schwab. Sorry, I don't know why I almost messed that up. It's so happy to see you. You look beautiful. You look like tan, rested, and ready. What's going on?
Ladies, I just got over COVID, so maybe that's the
Oh my
Oh,
God.
that's the secret.
post-COVID glow. I don't know.
I thought you were gonna be like, I just got back from Boca or something.
No, I wish. And a
She's
couple
been
of
she's
weeks
been
that I get to go on
sleeping.
vacation, but I'm coming out of COVID quarantine, so happy to be back into the world. So
Oh my gosh,
We're
that is
still getting
hilarious.
COVID.
yeah,
sucks.
yeah, we
So
are. And I had
crazy.
no idea. Like I woke up one morning and I had a terrible headache and a 100-degree fever, and I was like, I guess I'll use this expired test and see if it still works. And it popped positive like immediately. I was like,
Ugh.
It
seriously?
always
Come on.
does. When
Like
you're
July,
positive,
like I want to like go to the beach. No, COVID.
it's
Yeah.
those
Well, I
those
hope you
tests
feel
scream at
better.
you if you're positive. Oh, Nikki.
Sucks. Nikki, we have so much to get to with you today. I have like a million things to ask you. And I have so much to get to. Like I don't even really know where to start, except I want to show you this clip of Cory Booker yesterday, just because we're all going to get a lot of entertainment out of it. Okay. And we have serious things to get to, but I want to play number 6. Senator Cory Booker made a speech yesterday on the Senate floor and was as composed and normal as he normally is.
I'm tired of is when the President of the United States of America violates the Constitution, trashes our norms and traditions. And what does the Democratic Party do? Comply? Allow him? Beg for scraps? No, I demand justice. I will fight for Jersey every day, every night. This is a call, folks. The Democratic Party needs a wake-up call. I see law firms bending a knee to this president. I see businesses taking late-night talk show hosts off the air because they dare to insult a president. I see people who want mergers suddenly think that they have to pay tribute to this president. And what are the very people here elected to defend the Constitution of the United States saying, oh, well, today, let's look the other way and pass some resources that won't go to Connecticut, that won't go to Illinois, that won't go to New York, that will go to the states he likes.
Why is this man always auditioning for Hamilton?
Oh my God, that's what I was gonna say. This is
And
very Hamilton
actually-
coded.
Yeah, that totally works. It is.
What is he doing? I know he clearly wants to run for president again, but none of this is organic. Remember, he wore a diaper and he like stayed on the Senate floor for like 48 hours or something. No, he admitted it later, or I
know.
believe it was Depends that he wore.
Didn't want
Like,
to remember that.
Is this the
Oh,
only
he
way
also,
he
he
can
also
get
like
attention?
didn't drink water for like 3 days first or something. He like purposely like dehydrated himself and had like a whole
can't.
plan on how to deal with the
It
what
can't be good mentally, like for your arguments.
no.
What
Like,
is he doing?
I mean, the thing about the Democrats is I think they have like an authenticity issue right now. But with Cory Booker, I don't know. Like, I think that this might just be Cory Booker. Like, he's always been like this. He's always,
Yeah.
clamored for attention and been like the rabble rouser and is trying to be what's the old movie, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Like, he wants to have like that moment, and he wants to have that moment like all the time. So
Remember when he was like, I am Spartacus or something like that? And I just remember I was in a meeting and no one understood the reference. And I was like, I think it's like a movie from like the 20s, but I'm like not really sure. And I was like, this is ridiculous. But he clearly wants to run for president again, which like, I don't know. I remember interviewing him when he ran for president the first time and being like, I can't believe he ever got elected to anything. Like, he's so like saccharine and ridiculous. Do you think that he would be like a legitimate person if he ran for president. And like Democrats aren't going to go for this. He's someone that's like recycled from the Obama era.
I feel like he had his moment and his moment has passed. And I
Yeah.
think that's the case with a lot of people that, who ran in 2020 against Biden, who lost, who are sort of, I mean, Pete Buttigieg is another example. I think Pete actually has a better chance than Cory Booker of attracting Democratic votes. But it's just, I feel like the Democrats will end up with a nominee that is not quite on our radar yet. But that's sort of my feeling about it. That, maybe some governor that sort of pops up, or someone that's still, in state politics. Or
Everyone's pushing Andy Bashir right now. And I believe he's going to be on the cover of Vogue or in Vogue next
yeah,
month, correct? Yeah, which that'll work. There's no
but
way to win over Iowans quite like being on the cover of Vogue.
I mean, didn't Beto like learn this lesson?
I know he was on Vanity Fair. And remember, his line was, I'm born to do it. Do you remember, like, I'm born to be president? I was like, this fucking idiot.
It's like
Anyway,
you're in the house for like 2 minutes. Like that's not really how this usually works. I mean, we haven't
there,
had like a House member president in a long time.
I think it's like over a century. We love
Yeah.
our governors. That's definitely, and apparently our reality stars. I'm going to do serious topics, but I just have to play this for you, Nikki, because literally when I saw this clip of Hunter Biden doing his first interview since his dad left office last week, for some reason, I just thought of you because you covered the Hunter Biden story so much. I want to play this clip of him talking about how there's a lot of misinformation about crack cocaine, and it's actually a lot healthier than people realize. Number 3, please.
The only difference between crack cocaine and cocaine is sodium bicarbonate and water and heat, literally.
That's it?
That's it.
And those things are pretty much free if you go to like a science store.
This is free. You can go to your neighborhood convenience store and just get. Anyway, I don't want to tell people how to make crack cocaine, but it literally is a mayonnaise jar of cocaine and baking soda.
How different is the experience?
It's vastly, vastly different. And like for real, I feel really reluctant to kind of have some euphoric discussion. I know you're not asking me to do that, but have some euphoric discussion about crack cocaine.
Okay, I am not trying to belittle addiction issues. It runs in my family. My mother's an ex-addict, so is one of my brothers. Like, I'm not belittling it, but for some reason, I was like, sorry. I was like, do I want to do crack? Like,
That was great.
I felt like I was watching Breaking Bad for a second. It was very like scientific for a moment. That was a lot.
I'm so sorry, Nikki.
Megan's
What is
losing
he
it.
doing with these interviews? Like, he just sounds. It's not. That was just the funny part of it because I was just like,
I
can't
watched
believe
I
he's
watched a
talking about
lot
this,
of it, and it was very sincere, and like there were times where I was like on the verge of tears because of how like introspective and like sad and tragic it is. But the bits where he's talking about his crack and like
and it's
how to
not funny.
make
Drug
it.
use is serious,
I
but like
know,
whatever.
I know.
But
I mean,
he
there's
put
not
this
a
into
person
the
in the world who
okay?
hasn't been touched by addiction or experiencing themselves, and it's incredibly sad. But like just these bits where he's like, crack's better than alcohol, and crack's better than cocaine, and it's cleaner and it's pure. I mean,
Can I ask you really quick though?
incredible.
In this interview, Nikki, he really goes after like basically everyone in Democrat politics that helped get his dad out from running for office, and then he also claimed that his dad used Ambien during the debate and was exhausted, which is why that debate was so bad. Had you ever heard either of those things? And what was your reaction to the long interview he gave?
I mean, it was 3 hours long, which is crazy. I feel like I still didn't even get to the last 20 minutes of it. And I at it all day. I wrote like 3 different stories. Um, the Clooney thing I thought was really interesting because he like really went off on George Clooney and basically had this whole excuse as to why, like what he thought actually happened, which is really kind of interesting. So you know that George Clooney basically said that Joe Biden did not recognize him at this fundraiser, which happened like 12 days before the disastrous debate. And what Hunter is trying to say is that, I mean, and you've probably, if you've ever seen like the like a state dinner, whenever people are being introduced, there's a guy, a military aide, that always announces your name. So Hunter was trying to say that the military aide said, George Clooney and Julia Roberts, and somehow that meant that there was a misunderstanding that Biden didn't know who they were because it had to be introduced, but it's actually protocol. So I thought that was really interesting because if you didn't quite understand what he's talking about. You wouldn't quite have like gleaned that from that interview, but he's trying to say that like, yeah, Joe was totally with it, which I don't think was necessarily true. And that's how the sort of the Clooney situation sort of transpired. The other thing you asked about was the Ambien. I hadn't heard that, but I'm really kind of skeptical of the timeline, and this is why. So Joe Biden had gone abroad in like mid-June, had come back and did that LA fundraiser, the Clooney fundraiser that we're all talking about. And then he spent about a week at Camp David preparing for the debate before the debate happened. So if there was an Ambien issue, or if he was, his sleep schedule was all messed up from going abroad, and I feel it too. When we're doing these crazy international trips, you don't know what time it is when you get back to the United States. You're sort of out of it for a couple of days. But he had days and days and days at Camp David to sort of reset when they were prepping him for the debate before he went down to Atlanta. So that's why I sort of don't buy the Ambien thing. I mean, maybe but I think that what most people were sort of saying is that at that point in with Biden, he was sort of sunsetting or sundowning. So I mean, the debate didn't start until what, 9 p.m. and then it went for 90 minutes. That's late for an old guy.
I never know
for
why they make
me.
those debates so late. We always bitch about it because we can do this at 6. Like, I don't understand why it has to be so late all the time.
Why do
I
you
want
be on the West Coast? Because
Yeah.
we're basically doing them at 9 p.m. for internet or for full national viewership, right? So like it's 9 p.m. on the East Coast, so then it can be 6 p.m. on the West Coast. So when we've had debates that have been on the West Coast, they've been, earlier, which has been nice.
I still hate it. I want to sorry, I want to switch gears with you a little bit. So one of the things getting a lot of news today, which I just want to admit to all of you, like, I'm confused about this. I had never heard this before. I'm not sure what President Trump is doing. So President Trump did an interview yesterday where he was talking about how Jeffrey Epstein stole women from Mar-a-Lago. Again, I've never heard this. I'm very confused about this. Let's play number 2. And then I want, obviously, your take, Nikki.
Great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago. And people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, does that include Virginia Jeffrey?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her.
Nikki, did you know any of this?
So this is sort of a new excuse for the Trump Epstein breakup. So we hadn't really heard this. And, Trump originally had sort of said, I think it was years ago, that he said that, he was creeped out by Epstein, and that's why they had the breakup. Our friend Tara Palmieri, who's done a lot of reporting on this, her takeaway from it had been that it was a real estate deal that went sour. And she actually came in and did an online thing yesterday where she said that it was indeed Virginia that did go from Mar-a-Lago to then work for Epstein, but Trump was still like in the orbit after that happened. So if like that was the point in time where Trump was pissed at Epstein, it didn't show if Trump was still around for a number of years in Epstein's orbit. So again, like the timeline doesn't quite, square here. I mean, Trump could be misremembering or he could be lying. It's really unclear.
And Virginia has made statements on the record saying that she was essentially taken from Mar-a-Lago when she was still a teenager.
Yeah.
And to
Trafficked, right? Yeah.
Stolen. Stolen.
She was sort of promised this like career as like a traveling masseuse, it sounded like, for Epstein.
She was like 16 or 17. She was very, very young.
And
it's all
taken.
The Epstein story doesn't seem to be dying. Like I'm actually surprised this has had legs as long as it has. And every time I think I get a handle on even some of it, like I just find this story like so many tentacles. I find it confusing. I'm just gonna make the assumption there's a lot of extremely rich and powerful people tangled in all of this, which is why we don't know more. We've all seen, MAGA mouthpieces and people that are like the hardcore MAGA fans turning on Trump over this issue. Megyn Kelly, like there's a ton of people. Why do you think this isn't going away? And what can they do to even pivot from it? Because statements like this just make me even more confused.
Yeah, Trump he's not been helping himself by sort of changing the narrative pretty consistently. I mean, this has happened since he, took office in January. I think that, it it was a campaign promise. He ran on this. And so it's really hard to then just sort of like disappear it under the rug once you're in office, especially because, I mean, if you think about not all of the MAGA base, but a little chunk of the MAGA base that was also like QAnon, it all has to do with, like child predators, right? And so there's this sort of this group of people that are like, we need to find these pedophiles. Where are the powerful pedophiles? And like Jeffrey Epstein is like number one. So I think it sort of goes to the heart of at least a part of the MAGA movement. I think it's going to be politically problematic for him for a long time. There's no sort of easy way for him to get out of it. I mean, if he's in the files, that's extremely damning. If he tries to pardon Ghislaine, that is going to obviously upset people because I mean, looking back again at some of more of Tara's reporting, but Ghislaine was involved in the pedophilia herself. She was also touching these girls. She was bringing in these nubals for Jeffrey, but also seemingly for herself. So, pardoning a convicted sex trafficker, sex pest, is also not something that Donald Trump is going to want to do. So, I mean, how does he get out of this? And also, I mean, he went to Scotland. He had other, he signed an EU trade deal. He's done all this other stuff, and it seems to not have, really helped him sort of move along the story. A lot of times I think Trump can like sort of be like, hey, this over here, and like, distract people and people can, glom onto another story. I mean, he tried the Obama Russiagate stuff. And, we are sort of talking about that, but we're more so still talking about Jeffrey Epstein.
Democrats are trying to like get the upper hand in this. And I've seen a lot of interviews with different Democrats like Ro Khanna being like, we need to release the files. They had 4 years with Biden to release everything. Obviously I understand that they're more interested now because it could hurt Trump, but do you think there's any movement on the left? Do you think they're actually like committed to telling us what happened with Epstein, or it's just, political theater?
I will say that the thing that's interesting about, because I also wondered why they wouldn't have released more information under Biden, but I heard one former administration official make this point, and I think it tracks. Biden put Merrick Garland at the top of the DOJ to sort of, make sure that it was sort of almost like a church and state thing, that the White House was not going to interfere with the Department of Justice. And because of that, I mean, Merrick Garland, I don't think was like super interested in, going through the Epstein files. And so I think that like there was just no movement under Biden, even if there was information about Trump or Clinton or whomever in there. I think that it just wasn't it was sort of bubble wrapped under the Biden administration and sort of kept away from 1600 Penn. So that's one thing about why I think, the Democrats didn't do much during the Biden years on it. What was your other question, Megan? About going forward with the Democrats?
Well, actually, I have a new question, if you don't mind. So
Yeah,
sorry to
sure.
pivot. So Vice President Vance has been very savvy at not really answering this, but he wants to run for president. It's more than likely he will be at least the front runner, if not the nominee. How does he navigate this? Because he's also someone that went on Theo Vaughn's show not that long ago, saying we need to know about Epstein and what a pervert he was and all these things. So how is he going to navigate that going forward?
That's a good question because he could throw Trump under the bus on it in a way.
Mhm.
But then, to what, I mean, how, does that help him then take over the MAGA movement? Or does it, piss off Trump voters that Vance would do such a thing? And like that's sort of a gamble he would have to make, right?
Really quickly, we have a question from
So
Sean for you, Nikki. Can we have Sean come in? Hi, Sean. How are you? Oh, turn your audio
Yeah,
on if you don't mind. We
cannot
can't hear you.
hi, Sean.
Oh, okay. Call back, Sean. I'm so
Yep.
sorry. I can't hear you. Just come back. Call back when your audio's
Yeah.
working. I want to move on unless you want to add anything, Miranda.
No, I want to. What do you think that there's a chance with all this Ghislaine testifying, that maybe is working to strike a deal for herself? Have we gotten
Oh,
any leaks or any information about what's going on, and then how this like intersects with the firing of Comey's daughter, who was working with trying to do the investigations on all this?
I think, and I'm not 100% on this, but I think that Ghislaine, I think it's sort of public knowledge that Ghislaine has asked for a commutation or a pardon,
Right.
in order to sort of play ball with with either Congress or the DOJ. So I
Yes,
think that's
by all information, she's being very cooperative. But do you think that maybe she's gonna have a real chance of getting out?
I don't
I know
I
you're
don't
not a psychic. I know you're not a
I
psychic.
don't think
I don't
so.
know.
I
I don't know
can't see it.
because I think it would be, as I was saying earlier, I think it'd be under, it would look very bad. It would look very bad if she, got a truncated sentence, unless I mean, unless she gave up more information than we already know. But
I saw
I still think it'd be really politically fraught to sort of cut a deal with her. But we could see it happen.
Megan Kelly was tweeting right before I came on here, Trump, do not pardon Diddy. And I was like, is this a thing that's in the ether that I'm unaware of? Like,
Diddy.
why would we pardon Diddy? Like,
I
he's a
feel like someone
disgusting.
did ask him about it, but
But
Trump
yeah,
is
but like
asking
months
1,000
ago. I
questions
mean,
a day. So
I know. I was like, let's
Diddy's
not
stuff
do
isn't
that.
even up till October. I'm not thinking he's not on my radar at all.
Nikki, you do a ton of reporting and you know a lot of gossip. And one of the things that's getting so much attention is that according to this new Wall Street Journal poll that was released Saturday, Democrats' popularity is at its lowest point in 3 decades, with 63% of voters holding an unfavorable view of the party. That's like a very large number. And anytime Democrats are like Trump's garbage, whatever, well, why is your party more garbage than him? Like, why is your polling so badly? Are the Democrats you talk to or and through any of your reporting, how nervous are they? And do they have any plans to try and like reroute in this way? Because 63% is a super majority. It's very bad.
and I think it's because, Republicans don't like the Democrats and the Democrats don't like themselves after what happened
Yeah.
last year in the election.
Uh-huh.
So I think that accounts for the polling to be as bad as it is. I mean, my understanding is I think the Democrats are really looking at these two gubernatorial races to like kind of get their vibes back, right? They've got the New Jersey gubernatorial and the Virginia gubernatorial. They're like off-year elections. They often are predictive of how the midterms are going to go. I mean, I think that like they're also in two states that the Democrats, tend to do well in, like New Jersey's, you know,
Yeah.
basically blue, and Virginia, because of Arlington and Alexandria, is pretty blue as well. But obviously has a Republican governor right now. Now, the Democrats also have picked two candidates that have like good name recognition, are more moderate. I believe at least one's a veteran. So I
A
think
Spamberger in Virginia is pretty moderate. So
yeah, exactly. And I'm pretty sure Mickey Sherrill is pretty moderate as well in New Jersey. So I think they're gonna, sort of latch their wagons to those two races. And I know that, Obama basically when he did a fundraiser in New Jersey a couple weeks ago, he was like, we just need to like win these two races and then take a beat and then, then move on to the midterms. So I think that, if they lose one of those races, that would be, quite striking. And then that's when you really would have to be worried about the brand being extremely damaged.
the what's interesting, like you just said, is that they're both moderate candidates. I'm really sad that Winsome Sears, who's running against Bamber, I live in Virginia, is
Yeah.
doing so poorly because I really like her, and it would be the
Yeah,
first time a
she's so
black woman would be.
interesting.
She's so interesting. She's like a veteran, and she's a
Yeah.
immigrant from Jamaica, and like she's like it would be the first black woman to be governor in America. I think it's great, like whatever. So I'm really disappointed that I mean the election's not for a while, but I'm disappointed that she's not doing better than I thought she would, at least so far.
But she
I
could
do want to
have
ask you.
in
Yeah,
four
go ahead.
years. I mean, she could run again because it's a weird term limited thing in Virginia as well,
It
correct?
is,
You
yes.
can only serve one term. So she's somebody that I think still has a great political future. And, if a Democrat wins in 2028, you look at the 2029 Virginia gubernatorial, and she's a clear person that could come in and really do some interesting stuff. So
On a personal level, I know you live in DC and I live in Virginia, which for people who don't know, it means we live like about 15 minutes away. There's just one little bridge that separates everybody. I tell you, the voting in Virginia is so annoying and crazy. And the one term limit, whenever I'm like, who created the dumb laws in Virginia? It's so stupid. But speaking of mayor races, obviously we've all been paying a lot of attention of Mamdani, the favorite woke socialist of the left. I want to show you this. I just love this. I don't know why I love this so much. I actually think the Daily Mail covered this pretty well.
sure we
So
did.
Mamdani went to Uganda last week, where he still is, where he celebrated his third wedding, because he's had 3 wedding ceremonies now, with a 3-day affair at his family's compound, which was, and we have these pictures, 10, 11, please. You see that it's heavily guarded by military-style masked men with guns. I don't know if you can see it. And that he had guests streaming it out until midnight. The house, Laura Loomer actually found the Airbnb that you can rent this house. It's gorgeous and it's huge. Just so we're like, it is a compound. They have a giant mansion in Uganda. I don't know what things cost in Uganda, but it's a mansion's a mansion. He had an Islamic ceremony in Dubai in 2024, and then he had a civil ceremony in New York City in 2025. This is another extravaganza. I bet he'll have like 6 more weddings. In the midst of the celebration, obviously, people in New York were mourning the horrific shooting of the one police officer, and then I believe 2 executives. His name is Officer Didarul Islam, who was killed while responding to the scene in New York. It was horrible. I'm sure as everyone's seen on social media. And then there were 2 executives from Blackstone that were also shot. It's just horrific. He put a tweet up. Can we put number 8, please? Up saying, it doesn't matter. Number 8, do number 9, actually. He said that he was so sorry, and it was like, a tweet about the horrific tragedy. And then number 9, just a reminder, he wants to defund the police. That's him talking about how he wants to defund the police, and that, we shouldn't have police officers, despite the fact they keep us safe when lunatics with AR-15s go into buildings. Long setup for you. What does it mean when he wins? Because I'm not conceding the fact that he's not going to, this man's going to be the mayor of New York, 33-year-old socialist. What does this mean for the Democratic brand? Because there's nothing I love more than a socialist having his 3rd wedding with armed guards, who's also calling for defunding the police at his big fat mansion in Uganda.
Well, Democratic Socialist, to be clear. So there is.
Yes,
there is,
I'm sorry. The DSA. Yes, I'm so sorry.
Slight distinction. Megan.
Sorry.
But no, I mean, I'm intrigued to see if it works, because, we've had these, we've got Bernie Sanders, who ran for president twice. You've got AOC, who's obviously potentially mulling, higher office, whether it be Senate, maybe it be the White House, in the next decade or so. But have we actually seen democratic socialism work on a level the size of New York? We haven't in the United States. So I guess we'll see what happens. It could go well. It could not go well.
Any of the Democrats you talk to, like, it's been interesting because even, like Kathy Hochul will defend him against criticism, but like won't officially endorse him. I believe Hakeem Jeffries was like, it's great he won, but I'm not endorsing him either. Like they're definitely towing the line on supporting him. What do you think happens? Because I think if he does win, I do think he's going to be this base superstar. And I don't know what you do with someone like this, who is, again, a Democrat socialist, which you're correct is different than a Democrat. Is he going to have a platform at the 2028 convention? Is he going to have globalize the Intifada and like giant blinking letters behind him? Like when he makes a speech?
I hope not that, but
I mean, I hope not too, but we're in this is like, we're in bizarro land right now. Like, what do you do with this person who I really think AOC is like, God damn it, I could have gone further. I could have said all this stuff too. And I thought I was pushing the line, because he's her on acid. Like he's even more extreme than she is. And I thought, and she's widely regarded as the most extreme,
but
socialist.
she's also been extremely savvy. Whereas had other members of the squad, some of whom are no longer in Congress, get voted out because, I mean, like, you might say, yes, AOC, progressive, leftist, like pretty extreme when you look at, the full picture of Congress. But you have to remember, like, there's a lot of times when she's basically just sort of towed the party line. So she's sort of been smarter than sort of your average progressive. And actually Bernie Sanders is good on this too. I mean, Did they have a revolt during the Biden years? No.
Hmm.
They were in
Hmm.
lockstep with him. Whenever he was the apparent nominee in 2020, they all got in line. So the congressional progressives have actually, done sort of stayed in line with the Democrats. He'll be interesting to watch because I mean I think it really depends on how good of a job he does, right?
Hmm.
I mean, I think that, Democrats are always like a little like, oh, maybe we should, lean in more toward our progressive side of the family. Maybe we should have had Bernie Sanders as the 2020, nominee instead of Biden. But that it didn't happen, so we don't really know. So
Hmm.
this will give Democrats a chance to see if those policies actually work on sort of a huge scale, right?
Yeah, and I think, like you said, in the same way that Virginia and New Jersey are going to be beta tests, I think he's going to be a beta test too.
Yeah,
And we
absolutely.
will obviously continue watching that. I do want to show you, I hate the Pod Save America bros. I just find them so annoying. And I think that the fact that they like live in LA and all, I don't have a problem with wealth, but they live in like
You need
bajillion
that
dollar
Hunter quote
mansions.
where
Yeah.
he's like yelling at them and saying the F word a bunch.
Hunter Biden went really hard after the Pod Save America bros, and they responded really hard. So whatever. But I want to show you this clip. Also talking about the future of where they think the Democratic Party should go going into 2028. Number 7, please.
I don't think Democratic candidates should take money from AIPAC or vote to fund military support for Israel anymore. Like, I really don't. In this government, absolutely not. And that especially includes, I think, the next Democratic nominee for president.
Things I want to see Democrats at least calling for is cutting off military assistance to Israel. It's a rich country, by the way. They don't need our $3 billion a year. And hands up, right? Barack Obama signed a 10-year MOU for $3.3 billion a year. Like, so we're part of the problem here. Let's correct it. I would like to see talk about sanctioning Israeli government officials who use genocidal rhetoric or who talk about ethnic cleansing openly. We should support a ceasefire resolution at the UN. We should demand that international press be allowed into the Gaza Strip to report on what's happening without an IDF minder. It's insane. The press still can't go into Gaza and cover what's happening. And I also think like there has to be a total mindset change in the Democratic Party. When the war ends, we are not going back to the pre-October 7th status quo because it's not where the party is.
So, Nikki, there's been some pretty damaging polling about public support for Israel that came out yesterday, I believe, the day before yesterday. And obviously, especially within the Democrat Party, there was another poll that came out that showed that Mamdani coming out against Netanyahu and Israel actually helped him in the mayoral race instead of hurting him. Do you think that the Democratic platform is all fully going in this direction, that it will be an anti-Israel, anti-AIPAC party going forward?
I mean, I think generally speaking, probably yes. I mean, just talking to Democrats I know in DC who are, appalled by, and I'm talking to a lot of like Jewish Democrats too, who are, wouldn't necessarily be anti-Israel, but are anti what's going on with the Netanyahu government and the people of Gaza and seeing the pictures of like the starving children. So I do think that, Democrats are sort of moving in the sort of more pro-Palestinian direction. And I mean, we've seen that over the last, year or so.
Mm-hmm. Miranda, do you want to add anything? I saw you shaking your head. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that those comments would have been unthinkable
Yeah.
even 2 years ago. And to hear that said out loud is just a very interesting notion of the way the party's going. And to just circle back to the plummeting numbers of the Democrat Party, I think this all ties together with Mamdani. I don't think that moving towards moderate candidates is the answer. I think that the party is going this Democrat socialist way, and that's going to be the future of the party. It's like, how extreme Republicans went with MAGA. I think so goes the Democrat Party. I think that's what's going to end up happening.
I'm just curious. The thing that we will want is in, about a year and a half, I want Nikki to come back on the show when she's in, South Carolina, Beaufort, whatever, how this plays to people
Beaufort,
there.
though.
I mean, fabulous,
Beautiful.
whatever. But, it's obviously incredibly politically engaged community there. And I want to see how this plays in New Hampshire and South Carolina. Like, I want to see how normies respond to all of this.
Yeah.
Just like, and you have to make less than 80 grand a year. That's the rule. I don't want to hear anything from 100 grand or more. My last question on the Pod Save America bros, they're very like, it's our fault. Obama was part of the problem. They've had their ass kicked a lot recently by a lot of different people who are like, the Obama era is long gone and you are representative of the Obama era. You're also like 3 white guys in Malibu, like sitting around, like, pontificating about politics. And I also, just on a personal level, I have an issue with people not living in DC who are waxing poetic about the things that go on in this town. Because as you know better than anybody, sometimes you have to be in the restaurants and the cocktail parties and whatever to be like understanding where people and politicians really are at. And it doesn't happen at like the Malibu Beach Club in Soho House or whatever the hell those guys are doing. Sorry, I really don't like them. I know I'm alone in my sentiments.
They were kind
But
of
I just
annoying to
find
cover
them
back in
like
the day, I will say. So they're always
I'm just
like getting in trouble and like playing beer pong in Georgetown and doing their shit. Anyways, go on.
yes, they used to. Yes, they just left after Obama won. So I just want to know from you, are they like covering their ass? Because again, they've been sort of ostracized a lot by a lot of people. They're definitely not taken as seriously as they once were. Like, are they just trying to be like, look, we're cool. We're anti-Israel too. Like we're like pro mom and Donnie. Do you think that they're gonna shift as well?
I mean, it certainly sounds like it. I also
Mhm.
just, I mean, they sort of feel like they're sort of a product of a bygone time, which is basically what you're saying. That there's a lot more new voices in politics, and like these guys haven't really been relevant in like a decade.
Hmm. Yeah. I want to ask you about, you have this like crazy story. Obviously, we follow your work very closely. This is so weird. So the Secret Service tried
God,
to smuggle someone's wife on the plane. Like, can you explain this to me? And like,
They're always
how
doing
did
the
you,
wackiest shit. What is
and
with
like,
the
how did
Secret
you
Service?
find this
and my
out? Like,
well,
what?
well,
Yeah.
it broke as Trump was leaving Scotland yesterday, and my colleague Jeff Earl was on Air Force One with him. So if you actually listen to that whole gaggle, you can hear my colleague Jeff asking the president about it, and the president's like, "That was so weird, isn't that so weird? Like, he's gonna like leave his wife in a car?" And then so Trump thought it was extremely bizarre too. But here's what happened. So the Secret Service agent was reportedly Dallas based. He comes to Maryland, which is where Joint Base Andrews is, which is where we all, take off on Air Force One. And there's also a ton of support planes that also fly over to accompany the president in any sort of presidential travel. You've got those like giant ones that carry the beast, and the Marine One, like it comes with us as well. There's usually two Marine Ones at least that fly abroad on one of these big planes. And so she apparently like went to the Secret Service briefing about Scotland and then was at like there's actually like a passenger terminal at Joint Base Andrews, which is kind of fun. And so she's like sitting at the passenger terminal and they're like, "Ma'am, like what do you think you're doing here?" And they discovered her. And she also like was a member or is a member of the Air Force. So she's military, so she probably could have like, caught a flight and not been weird about it.
Is she, I mean, are there like any like ramifications for this? You
Oh,
tried to like,
there's an
okay, yeah.
investigation, and I mean, I assume that her husband, will face some sort of consequences for it. But I guess that what she wanted a vacation to Scotland, and so was gonna like hop on a support plane.
That's
But like,
so
why are the
weird.
Secret Service so messy? They always get in these weird scandals that it's like if you have six brain cells, you know that's a bad idea to try and smuggle your wife onto Marine One or whatever. Like,
And
what
why
is
would you
wrong
risk
with
your job? It's so
you know?
stupid.
I
So
blame the testosterone. I mean, those guys are like,
like I'm gonna get my wife.
we don't mind it. We really don't mind it. So
Better as wife than like, a random side piece. But
I
I
mean, it
guess
could have been someone else. Yeah, that's true.
how
Um,
knowing how the Secret Service likes to roll, yeah, for sure.
Speaking of planes, I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but Kristi Noem was in Argentina, and which is all well and good, but she got off her plane, and people are making a big deal about the fact that Corey Lewandowski is traveling with her. And I'm not gonna repeat rumors. I'm not gonna whatever, but just feel free to do a simple Google search. You'll know what we're saying. Is
or
there
just
anything?
search the Daily Mail because we've written
Yeah,
about
or just
that
search the Daily Mail. Actually
at,
go to the
at
Daily Mail and
length.
just type her name in. Yes. Is that problematic at all? Is that complicated? Like, I was surprised to see that that's so public.
Is she still married?
She is still married. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Corey is under like a special government employee status, but
Okay.
indeed work for her and also lives. We reported that they were basically living like across the street from each other, but because of like recent threats, she's actually moved onto a military base in DC.
Oh,
So yeah, which is, not great. Not great. I think it has a lot to do with the deportations and the immigration policy that she's gotten, a number of threats to her life. So she's sort of in a more protective bubble right now. But yeah, Corey travels around with her quite a bit. He's often at her side. And, it's just political optics, right? I mean,
Not great.
not
Yeah.
that if she wants to run for higher office, like that's going to be something that a lot of people will have questions about.
And I'll enjoy the Daily Mail's continued coverage on it, just so we're clear. Really quick, we have a question from Elena for Nikki, I believe. Elena, how are you?
Oh,
It's nice to
hi,
see you
Elena.
again. How are you? This is one of our
I'm unmuted.
favorites.
Okay. I really, Megan, I hope we can still be friends after I ask this, okay? And
Sure.
it may be too not enough time, but Nikki said something that a lot of people are saying, and it has been, I mean, I'm literally nauseous. I'm nauseous every day. I'm upset
no.
every day. Yeah, I'm serious. It's like this whole issue about the starvation in Gaza and that it's the Israelis' fault. And I really do listen to all types of coverage. And there's a lot of coverage that is saying that what's happening there and why it's happening, and that Hamas was, selling the food and made a lot of money on selling the food all through 2024 to the Palestinians, and some Palestinians obviously couldn't afford buying it. I see pictures of them like taking, like having bowls and they're then putting, like, I don't know, seeds or corn or whatever they're putting in the bowls, versus I see what the Americans and the Israelis are giving big boxes and packages. So I am so confused about what is reality. And I know, Megan, your mom is involved. I can't remember the organization, but I don't think it's the UN.
World Food Program.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just, I don't know how to find what are the facts. What are the facts? I know the picture in the New York Times was not accurate. I mean, it was accurate of the young man, the little boy, but he has this disease and he's somewhere now getting treated. Thank God.
Just for Elena's point, the New York Times ran a picture of what was said to be a starving child in Gaza, and then they had to run an apology and a retraction yesterday or this morning. I'm sorry, I don't remember when, saying that the child actually has cerebral palsy, and that is why he looked like that. And that picture was blasted all over the internet, everywhere, and then obviously the apology probably like what, a
Page
tenth
6.
of the people see it.
Right.
Yeah. So, well, I will echo with what you're saying, Elena, that it's incredibly frustrating. I put a tweet out like 2 days ago, just saying like Israel's the only country that's not allowed to win a war, like that globally, like people are not allowing them to win a war. I read everything as well. It is very confusing. There's a lot of misinformation on social media in particular. I will say there's a lot of great reporting about Hamas stealing food from people as well. And Hamas are disgusting terrorists. They are not taking care of their people. And I keep saying to everyone, this can all end today. They just have to return the hostages. That's it. You return the hostages and this all ends. And I also think what has been so surprising for me, and again, like I said, there's very damaging polling, and I apologize I didn't bring it in front of me because we were actually planning on doing a much larger Israel episode when I'm a little less emotional and Miranda's a little less emotional. We're all just like very high level right now because it's an important, you're less emotional, whatever. It's a very issue. It's very important to me. Yesterday, I actually spoke at the Israel Campus Coalition, which is in front of students, pro-Israel students who are, I mean, I heard the most horrific story from the former president of UCSB in Santa Barbara, excuse me, that she was the president of the school and she was just harassed for being Jewish, and her name's Tessa, and you can just Google. It's a really horrific story. And seeing what these students are being put through face to face is just hideous. I mean, anyone who thinks anti-Semitism isn't real hasn't heard these stories of these kids in colleges right now. And I'm like so pro-Israel. Like I'm a proud Zionist. Like I'm not backing down. I don't care how unpopular it gets with the cool kids. I don't give a fuck. I know what's right and what's wrong. And I think the thing that people aren't understanding, or at least taking into account, is like if someone came into my town and they raped and killed people and took children and stole them and put them in ovens and burned them alive, like, I'm sorry, but I would react like the last scene in Inglourious Bastards. But I'm a crazy person from Arizona. Like I would have no peace, and there would be I would not forgive.
I know,
and
but
so
I would say the whole idea that a Jew, I don't care how much you dislike, BB, I don't care. I just cannot believe that Jewish soldiers with a Jewish soul would starve people. I just can't believe that that's not people may not be getting food, but I don't think it's because the Israelis want to starve the Palestinians. And that's where I'm ripped apart because, I hear certain watch there was a watch the morning meeting if you haven't watched it yet. One of the last two callers was
there's a conversation. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
And that was interesting because the Orthodox gentleman had numbers and stuff about how much money the Hamas made and all. And I have a sense I know where he's getting his information from, but the other fellow didn't really even have anything to say to that. Like it's like he didn't care if that was even true. Do you know what I mean? And that's what's very upsetting to me. Like I want to hear.
People are incredibly tribal on this issue, and I feel like I said part of the reason why we didn't do the topic as a whole topic today, and we will, I promise, in the future, is like I'm really upset about. Again, I'm upset. No one wants to see any pictures of any children starving, no matter what. I'm upset about everything. Obviously, anyone starving. I'm upset about everything, but I'm also really upset that I feel like, for me, so many times when I have good faith conversations about this issue, which I do all the time, but when I have a debate, it very quickly on the other side goes to very ancient anti-Semitic tropes very quickly. And that's my problem with this, is that I think being anti-Zionist is code for being anti-Semitic. And I don't really give a shit at this point in my life what people say to me or think of me or do to me. I need to have a conversation with someone who doesn't go into like libelous territory very quickly. I hope that person exists. I welcome you to come on this show and talk to me about it. So I promise you, Elena, we will talk about this further, and we will, like I said, I'm too heated and upset right now. I just talked to a bunch of students yesterday, and it was a lot, and I'm glad I did it, but it was very impactful. So we will keep talking about it, I promise. And you're not alone. If you and I are the last people that support Israel on the planet, so be it. You, me, and Eve Barlow.
We did have a big conversation during our prep
we
meeting
did
yesterday about whether or not to
like,
get into it, and we were just like,
but this is the
we're
thing.
gonna cry the whole time if we do.
I don't know what your mother knows, what she doesn't know, but I would trust her, because she's your mother. I mean, again. So
and that may be who we have on to talk about it, because that is someone who we trust. So, that may be something to consider.
I am so sorry. We are running late. We're actually already a minute over, but thank you so much, and call back anytime. And Nikki, anything else you were working on or want to plug? Sorry to get into something so heavy right at the end.
Oh, goodness. No, I just, I'm hoping that, we have a nice weekend and I'm out of COVID jail, and it was great to meet you guys. And I'm sure I'll have some scoop to give you the next time.
Come back anytime. You're one of our favorites.
You.
We love you. We love talking to you. Always so fun. You can find Nikki at Nikki Schwab on X, and please follow all her work at the Daily Mail. You do such amazing work all the time. You're everyone's favorite, like all the time. Thank you so much. Hope you feel better. And everyone, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again, same time, same place on Monday. And just a reminder, next week is our last week before we go on a little summer hiatus. We're just going on a hiatus. Nothing's being canceled. No one's being fired. Miranda and I are still friends, okay? I need to say this 30,000 times. Every time we take a break, it's that Miranda and I had some breakup or I'm fired. That's not what's happening. This is a predetermined summer break so we can have a little time off to be with our families, and I don't have to wear makeup, and then we'll come back fresh for the fall and all the great news. Watch, though, last time I went on a summer break and said, I was like, I'm not talking at all. Mar-a-Lago got raided, and I was like,
I know. Last time I went on vacation, all that shit happened in Pennsylvania, and the president got shot at.
I'll still bring a mic just in case.
We always travel with our equipment, but
Yes. All right. Thank you, Miranda. We will see you again on Monday. Have a great weekend.